Good morning, beloved friend. The world is still wrapped in the softness of dawn. The air is quiet, as if creation itself is holding its breath. A faint glow stretches across the horizon, painting the sky with tender hues of gold and pale blue. This is the hour when night loosens its grip and day begins to whisper its promises. It is the sacred threshold between silence and sound, between sleep and awakening, when the heart is most ready to listen. Perhaps this morning you rise with heaviness pressing against your chest. You may be carrying the weight of a sleepless night, replaying words that wounded you or decisions that haunt you. Perhaps you are walking through the valley of grief, where the absence of someone you love feels like an unending shadow. Or maybe fear has wrapped itself around your thoughts, whispering that tomorrow will be no better than yesterday. These are not just passing moments. They are the battles of the soul, often fought in secret when the world around you seems to rest. I think of a young mother who once told me that every morning she woke with the sound of her child's cough echoing through the house. Doctors had no clear answers, and her nights were filled with anxious prayers and restless pacing. The dawn became her companion, not because she chose it, but because fear would not let her sleep. Yet she discovered something profound in those fragile hours. When she lifted her trembling voice, not with eloquence but with simple honesty, she began to sense she was not alone. The same dawn that once mocked her with uncertainty became the canvas of her hope. Stories like hers remind us that pain is not wasted and silence is not empty. The early morning has always been a meeting place between human weakness and divine strength. In the stillness of this hour, our words carry unusual weight. They are not scattered into the void, but received by the one who bends close to listen. What feels like whispers of desperation can become declarations of faith that shift the atmosphere of an entire day. Prayer is not just a ritual to check off or a string of words floating into the sky. It is the lifeline that tethers your heart to the eternal. It is the way fear loses its grip, how sorrow finds comfort, and how hope learns to rise again. Prayer opens a door between heaven and earth, allowing the unseen to touch the seen. And when you pray in faith, even with trembling hands and wary eyes, you step into a current of power that is far great anything you could manufacture on your own. So here you are, at the beginning of a new morning. Whatever burdens you bring, whatever wounds remain unspoken, this is your invitation to lay them down. You do not need to have the perfect words. You do not need to disguise your weakness. What matters is the willingness to open your heart. The dawn asks nothing more of you than honesty. In this sacred space, let your breath become steady, your mind grow still, and your spirit lean forward. We are about to embark on a journey of communion with the one who knows you fully and loves you without measure. These prayers are not formulas. They are conversations that move from despair to strength, from brokenness to healing, from uncertainty to trust. Friend, the power of faith is not reserved for the strong. It is born in the very moments when we confess we are weak and choose to believe anyway. The voice that shakes in the early morning can become the trumpet that calls hope back into a weary soul. Today is not just another day. It is a doorway, and prayer is the key. So as the sun lifts its head above the horizon, Let us lift our hearts as well. Let us step together into this dialogue with God, carrying both our wounds and our hopes, trusting that the one who shaped the dawn can also reshape our lives. The invitation is open. The moment is here. All that remains is for you to step through. Dear Heavenly Father, the morning has barely broken, and I come before you carrying the silence of the night that clings to me. My eyes open, but my heart feels heavy, as though it has walked through storms while my body lay still. I confess that I wake with questions pressing against me, with the ache of needs I cannot seem to name, and with the weight of worries that follow me from one day into the next. Yet in this first breath of dawn, I choose to bring it all to you. I do not want to hide in business or pretend to be strong. I do not want to wait until the world has crowded in with its demands. Right here, in the fragile light of morning, I acknowledge that my soul thirsts for something more than sleep could ever give. You are the one my spirit longs for, even when my mind is too distracted to recognize it. I come because I cannot make sense of the shadows by myself. I come because I believe you hear even the faintest whisper. Father, in these early moments, I feel the mixture of emptiness and yearning. The emptiness tells me I have tried to carry life in my own hands, and the yearning tells me there is a better way. I sense the tug of your spirit calling me out of numbness into awareness. It is not an awareness of my failures alone, but of your nearness that has never left me. The stillness of dawn feels like an open door, and I step through it with trembling but willing feet. I remember the words of the psalmist who declared, "Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and a weary land where there is no water." That is where I find myself today. My surroundings may be ordinary, but inside I am parched. So I ask you to let the river of your presence run through the desert places of my heart. Let your living water cleanse the dust of yesterday and soften the hardened soil where hope has struggled to grow. Father, I surrender the weight I have carried, every regret from yesterday, every anxious thought about tomorrow. I place them into your hands. My arms grow weary holding them, but you never grow weary holding me. Lift from me the cloak of heaviness that blinds me to the beauty of this new day. Replace it with the garment of praise that reminds me I am not defined by my weakness, but by your faithfulness. As the light begins to spread across the sky, I ask that the same light would spread across my soul. Let it push back the shadows that linger in my thoughts, where fear whispers that I am not enough. Speak courage, where shame tells me that I am unworthy. Speak love, where confusion clouds my mind. Speak clarity. I long for the kind of morning where I no longer look back in regret or forward in dread, but lift my eyes upward to see you standing steady over all things. I bring to you the hunger I cannot quiet. It is more than hunger for food or success or recognition. It is hunger for peace, for wholeness, for purpose that cannot be shaken. My heart knows that only in you will I find rest. I do not come demanding answers, but seeking presence. I do not come with perfect prayers, but with an honest soul. Meet me here in the quiet. Father, where every sigh becomes an offering and every tear becomes a seed of hope. You know the pain I have carried silently, You know the questions that sit unanswered in the corners of my mind. You know the restless turning of my nights and the weight of my mornings. Still, you invite me to draw near. You welcome me not because I am strong, but because I belong. I am reminded that before I was awake, you were already watching over me. Before I spoke a word, you already knew it. Before the sun rose, your mercies were new again. So I choose, in this fragile beginning, to lift my eyes beyond the limits of myself. I choose to believe that even in my weakness, your strength is near. I choose to believe that this day holds more than repetition, that it holds promise. Because you are in it, I confess that my heart feels small, but I also confess that you are vast enough to carry all that I cannot. Father, let this morning become a holy meeting place. Let this first conversation shape every other word I will speak today. When I walk into the noise, let me carry the quiet I found here. When I face the unknown, let me remember that you are already there. When I am tempted to despair, let me return to this altar of the morning where I laid down my burdens and lifted up my eyes. I long for my soul to awaken as surely as the day has awakened. Stir in me a hunger for your voice that is stronger than the voices of fear. Stir in me a desire for your presence that is greater than the pull of distraction. Stir in me the courage to keep seeking even when I do not see immediate answers. I believe that you are the rewarder of those who diligently seek you. And though I seek you with trembling hands, I seek you still. Father, let this prayer be the first breath of a new rhythm. Let it be the start of days marked not by exhaustion, but by renewal. Let it be the place where despair begins to unravel and hope begins to weave itself again. I may not know how the day will unfold, but I know that beginning with you changes everything. So I rise into this morning with expectation, with surrender, and with a heart open to be filled by you. Father, I continue from the stillness where I left my heart open to you, and I realize how much I need to release what I have been carrying. Yesterday's burdens cling to me like shadows that resist the morning light, and I know I cannot walk freely into this new day until I place them into your hands. I have held tightly to my own disappointments, replaying moments I cannot change, rehearsing words that cut too deeply, and clinging to mistakes that weigh me down. Today, Lord, I no longer want to drag them with me. I want to set them at your feet and breathe without the constant pull of regret. The truth is that I am wary from pretending I can manage everything. I have smiled while my soul was breaking. I have nodded while my mind was racing. And I have carried silence that has become too loud inside me. These weights were never meant to define me, yet I let them dictate the rhythm of my days. Now I confess them to you one by one. Every hidden worry about tomorrow, every guilt that lingers from choices I cannot undo, every fear of failing those I love, I release them into your care. Lord, you see deeper than anyone else. You know the layers beneath my words, the motives I cannot untangle, and the thoughts that spin without rest. Nothing is hidden from you, yet you do not turn me away. Instead, you invite me to surrender. So I picture myself laying down heavy stones I have collected along the way. Each stone is a memory of something I could not fix, an argument that ended without resolution, a disappointment that drained my spirit. I lay them down not because I have the strength to discard them, but because I believe you are strong enough to hold them. I admit that part of me resists letting go. Part of me clings to control, believing that if I think hard enough or work long enough, I can make sense of what is broken. Yet that belief has only left me exhausted. Father, teach me to loosen my grip. Teach me to trust that surrender is not weakness but freedom. Remind me that releasing does not mean forgetting, but entrusting what I cannot heal to the hands of the one who heals all things. In this act of release, I feel the space within me begin to shift. Where heaviness sat, there is now room for peace. Where anxiety spun its webs, there is now room for clarity. I ask that you fill the emptiness I create by laying these burdens down. Replace it with rest that no circumstance can steal, with joy that no sorrow can silence, with courage that no fear can undo. Let me walk into this day lighter, not because life has become easy, but because I am no longer carrying it alone. God, you are the one who sustains me when I can barely stand. You are the refuge where I can finally exhale. You are the safe place where I can fall apart and still be held together. I am learning that letting go is not a single act, but a rhythm I must practice. Every time my mind tries to pick up what I laid down, remind me gently that I already placed it into your hands. Every time I am tempted to replay the past, remind me that you are already redeeming it. Every time I fear the future, remind me that you are already there. I thank you for being patient with me in this process. I thank you for not rushing me, but for walking with me as I slowly unclench my fists. I thank you that your mercy meets me not only when I succeed, but especially when I stumble. Your compassion teaches me that surrender is not a demand, but an invitation. It is the chance to stop striving and finally rest. This morning I choose rest over striving. I choose trust over control. I choose to lay down the weight and walk into the lightness of your presence. Even if I have to choose again tomorrow, I will begin here today. I will believe that the same God who holds the universe together can hold the fragile pieces of my life. I will believe that when I release, I do not lose, but I gain a deeper freedom. Father, I come to you with open hands now, no longer clutching what is too heavy for me. I ask you to take what I cannot carry and transform it into something I cannot yet imagine. Where I see ruins, build something new. Where I see loss, plant seeds of hope. Where I see failure, write redemption. My heart bows low before you, not in shame but in surrender, and I rise from this prayer lighter, freer, and ready to walk forward into this day with renewed strength. Lord, now that I have laid down the weight of what I carried, I feel the ache of the spaces left behind. The burdens are no longer clutched tightly in my hands, but their marks remain on me like dust on weary skin. My soul longs not only to be free from what is heavy, but to be cleansed from what has stained. I bring myself into your presence with the hope that you will wash over me like a river after drought, restoring what exhaustion and sin have dulled. I confess, Father, that my thoughts often wander into places that do not honor you. Resentment lingers longer than it should. Pride creeps in when I least expect it, and fears weave themselves into patterns I struggle to unravel. These are the hidden stains that no one else may see, but I feel them every morning when I try to begin again. I do not want to cover them with polite words or pretend they do not exist. I want you to cleanse me, to reach into the corners of my mind and the secret places of my heart, and make them new. God, I imagine your spirit as a stream running clear and strong, flowing over every part of me, where shame has left its marks. Let your water wash them away, where bitterness has taken root. Let your river pull it out from the soil, where guilt has become like dust clinging to me. Let your presence sweep it clean. I do not ask this as someone who deserves it, but as someone who desperately needs it. I know that only in you can I be restored. I think of the times rain has come after a long dry season, how the air itself seems lighter, how the earth releases its fragrance, how even the smallest plants lift their heads again. That is what I long for within myself. I want the dryness of my spirit to give way to renewal. I want to breathe deeply and know that the atmosphere of my soul has shifted, that what was lifeless has come alive again. Lord, cleanse my memory as well. Wash through the moments that replay without my permission, the scenes of failure, the echoes of words spoken in anger, the regrets that sneak into the quiet. Let your water run through those memories until they no longer define me, but remind me of your mercy. Where I once saw only scars, let me now see signs of your healing. Where I once heard only accusation, let me now hear the sound of grace. I ask you also to purify my motives. Too often I chase approval. Too often I measure myself by standards that do not come from you. My intentions become clouded, my actions tangled, my heart divided. Lord, cleanse the wellspring from which my decisions flow. Align my desires with yours so that what I pursue is not empty ambition, but holy purpose. Let my hands work with integrity, my words carry truth, and my steps reflect love. God, I receive this cleansing not with fear, but with gratitude. I know that when you wash, you do not humiliate, but restore. You do not expose to shame, but to heal. You lift me out of the mire and place my feet on steady ground. In your presence, I am not defined by the dirt I have gathered, but by the newness you create within me. I surrender myself to this work of renewal, even if it feels uncomfortable. Scrubbing away what has clung to me may sting at times, but I know it is the sting of healing, like a wound cleaned before it can close. I allow you to touch the tender places because I trust that you desire my wholeness, not my harm. I open every hidden chamber of my heart to your light, every locked door to your spirit, every shadowed corner to your cleansing flood. Father, let this washing not be only for today, but the beginning of a rhythm. Each morning when I wake, let me come to you for cleansing, so that I do not live caked in yesterday's dust. Let me walk lightly, unburdened, and pure-hearted, not because I have mastered perfection, because I have learned to remain in your flow. Let my life become like a vessel continually refreshed, never stagnant, never dry, always receiving from the source that never runs out. As the day unfolds, may this cleansing shape my posture toward others. Let me carry the fragrance of renewal into every place I go. When I speak, let my words be seasoned with grace, not bitterness. When I act, Let my choices reflect compassion, not selfishness. When I see others weighed down by shame, let me remember my own cleansing and extend kindness instead of judgment. Lord, I do not know how much of my day will test this renewal, but I trust you to meet me in every moment. And if I stumble, I know your river flows still, ready to wash me again. I rest in the assurance that your mercy is not rationed, but abundant. Not conditional, but steadfast. Not temporary, but eternal. I step into this day cleansed, not because of who I am, but because of who you are, the one who makes all things new. Father, as I rise from the cleansing flow of your presence, I notice how quickly fear tries to creep back into the spaces you have made new. It whispers at the edges of my thoughts, reminding me of uncertainties I cannot control, of dangers I cannot predict, of outcomes I cannot guarantee. Even when my heart feels refreshed, fear waits like a shadow at the threshold, hoping to steal the peace you have poured into me. Today, I choose not to let that shadow govern my steps. I choose trust. I admit that fear has been a familiar companion. It has disguised itself as caution, as planning, as preparation. It tells me that if I do not keep rehearsing every possibility, disaster will surely find me. But I see now that fear is not protection. It is prison. It narrows my world. It shrinks my joy. It keeps me from walking freely into the wide spaces of your promises. I no longer want to be bound by its chains. I want to stand in the light of trust and walk forward with courage that comes from knowing you are with me. Lord, I remember that fear often begins with small whispers. What if I fail? What if I am not enough? What if the future holds only disappointment? These questions multiply quickly, and soon my mind is spinning with stories of defeat before the battle has even begun. But your voice speaks a different story. You remind me that I am not alone, that you go before me, that you surround me on every side. You remind me that even in the valley, I am not abandoned. Your presence is not shaken by my circumstances. So I bring you my specific fears this morning. I bring you the fear of not being able to provide, the fear of rejection, the fear of sickness, the fear of losing what I hold dear. I place them into your hands because I cannot carry them without breaking. And as I place them down, I ask you to replace them with trust that is stronger than trembling, faith that is deeper than doubt, and peace that is steadier than panic. Let my heart learn to lean into you when fear rises, not into the storm of my own thoughts. God, I think of the birds that sing as the morning begins. They do not hoard. They do not plan every detail of tomorrow. Yet they sing without fear of hunger. They trust that the day will bring what they need. Let my heart learn from them. Teach me to sing even when I do not see provision yet, to rejoice even when the path is not fully clear. Help me to lift my voice in trust instead of silence in worry. I ask you to renew my mind with your truth. Fear says I am vulnerable and alone, but trust says I am held and secure. Fear says I am too weak, but trust says your strength is perfected in weakness. Fear says the future is dark, but trust says the future is lit by your promises. Write these truths upon my soul so deeply that they become my instinct when fear attempts to rise again. Father, I acknowledge that trust is not a feeling that simply appears. It is a choice I must make again and again. It is the decision to anchor myself in what I know of you rather than in what I do not know of tomorrow. It is to steady my steps not on shifting sand, but on the rock of your faithfulness. So this morning, I choose trust over fear, faith over worry, peace over panic. I choose to let your love cast out the fear that tries to settle in me. As I walk into the hours ahead, remind me that fear does not have the final word. Remind me that the power of fear is broken when I lift my eyes to you. Remind me that every heartbeat is a testimony of your sustaining hand, and every breath is proof that you are near. Let me carry this assurance into every conversation, every task, every quiet moment. Lord, I ask not only for myself, but for those I love. Where fear grips their hearts, let your presence bring release. Where anxiety binds their minds, let your spirit bring calm. Where dread keeps them from living fully, let your peace invite them into freedom. Extend the trust you are building in me to those around me, so that together we may stand as witnesses of your steadfast care. When the night comes again, I know fear may attempt to return, but I will remember this morning. I will remember that trust is stronger than trembling, that light always breaks the hold of darkness, and that your faithfulness does not end when the sun sets. Let my soul rest in that assurance, carrying me from this dawn into every dawn to come. God, having chosen to trust you over the voices of fear, I feel a stirring within me to not only rest quietly in that trust, but to speak it aloud. For too long my words have reflected my worries, repeating doubts and rehearsing troubles as though they were the only truth I knew. Yet I realize that my tongue holds the power to shape my day. My voice can either echo the whispers of fear or proclaim the reality of faith. This morning I desire to declare life, hope, and truth in alignment with what you have spoken. Father, I remember how often I have allowed silence to be filled with the lies of uncertainty. My mind spins scenarios of loss and defeat, and I catch myself speaking them into the air as though they were unchangeable. But you have given me the gift of words, not to reinforce despair, but to announce your promises with every declaration I make in faith. I am choosing to agree with your heart rather than with my doubts. I want my language to mirror heaven, not the shadows of fear. So today I open my mouth with intention. I declare that I am not abandoned, but deeply known and fully loved. I declare that even in my weakness, your strength is present and sufficient. I declare that my steps are not random, but guided, that my future is not fragile, but secure in your care. I declare that no shadow is too dark for your light to overcome, no wound too deep for your mercy to heal, no need too great for your provision to meet. These are not empty phrases, but living truths that align me with the power of your Spirit. Lord, I believe that words carry weight. Just as creation responded to the sound of your voice when you spoke light into existence, my world responds when I speak in harmony with your promises. When I declare peace, my anxious heart begins to steady. When I declare healing, my weary body begins to hope. When I declare joy, my spirit remembers that despair does not own the final word. Every statement of faith plants seeds in the soil of this day, seeds that will grow into fruit I cannot yet see. I confess that I have underestimated this power. I have spoken casually, forgetting that my words can build or break, bless or curse, heal or wound. Forgive me for the careless speech that has reinforced doubt in myself and in others. Teach me to guard my tongue, to let my declarations flow not from impulse, but from conviction. Let every sentence be a stone in the foundation of trust I am building with you. Father, I want my declaration to shape not only my own path, but also the lives of those around me. I speak blessing over my family, that they may know peace that steadies them in uncertainty. I speak strength over my friends, that they may walk boldly in the face of challenges. I speak hope over those who feel lost, that they may glimpse light breaking into their darkness. May my words become channels of your love, carrying encouragement where despair has tried to take root. Even in moments when I feel small, I know my voice is not powerless. It joins with countless others who declare your goodness across the earth. And together we create a chorus that pushes back the weight of fear. My declarations are like lanterns lit in the night, each one adding to the brightness until the darkness can no longer dominate. Teach me to value this discipline, to return again and again to the practice of speaking what is true, even when circumstances try to silence me. God, I am learning that declarations are not just for victories already won, but for battles still unfolding. When I say I am strong though I feel weak, I am aligning myself with your promise. When I say I am free though chains still rattle, I am stepping into the liberty you have secured for me. When I say the future is hopeful though the present feels uncertain, I am agreeing with your vision rather than my fear. Let my declarations carry the sound of confidence, not in myself, but in you. This morning, let my language become an instrument of faith. Let every phrase I speak lift my spirit and anchor me deeper in your truth. Let my words echo beyond the moment, carving out pathways of hope in places that once felt barren. I will not waste this gift of speech on complaints or despair. I will choose instead to proclaim life, to name blessings, to confess your faithfulness, and to call forth joy. Lord, seal these declarations in my heart, so that when I walk into the noise of the day, they remain louder than the voices of doubt. Let them rise up when I am tempted to complain, reminding me that gratitude is stronger. Let them return when I am tempted to fear, reminding me that trust is greater. Let them guide me when I am tempted to remain silent, reminding me that truth must be spoken. May this day be marked by a chorus of faith flowing from my lips, words that not only change me, but ripple outward with unseen power. Lord, as my heart has learned to declare truth with my lips, I now long to rest under the covering of your presence. Speaking faith aloud strengthens me, but I know that the storms of life still come, and I cannot face them alone. I need the shelter of your nearness, the safety that only exists beneath your shadow. This morning I draw near, not as someone who is self-sufficient, but as one who knows the fragility of life and the strength of your protection. Father, there are so many forces that press against me. Worries about provision, threats of sickness, the noise of conflict in the world around me, and the weight of responsibilities that sometimes feel too heavy. These are the winds that rise suddenly, shaking me when I least expect it. Yet in every gust I remember that you are my refuge. You are the stronghold where I can breathe deeply again. Your shadow is not darkness, but covering, Not fear, but safety. Not confinement, but rest. I picture myself beneath the shelter of great wings, spread wide to guard me. Underneath them I feel both small and secure. Hidden, but never forgotten. The world may rage outside, but here there is calm. The arrows of accusation cannot pierce through this place. The noise of fear cannot drown out your steady voice. The weight of demands cannot crush me when I am resting here. You are the shield around me, and within your embrace I find the courage to keep moving. God, I admit that sometimes I step out from under this covering, chasing control or distracted by worry. I wander into open spaces and feel the sting of exposure, the sudden chill of anxiety, the vulnerability of being alone. But you always call me back, reminding me that your presence is not limited by place or time. Wherever I am, I can return beneath your shadow. You do not shut me out because I strayed. You welcome me back because I belong. In this refuge, I let go of my defenses. I do not need to pretend I am strong enough to fight every battle. I do not need to build walls around my heart or armor myself with pride. Here, I am safe enough to be weak. Because you are strong for me, I am safe enough to rest. Because you watch over me, I am safe enough to release my fears. Because you have already overcome them. Father, I ask you to extend this shelter over those I love. Cover them in their moments of uncertainty. Guard them when they walk through valleys they do not understand. Spread your wings over their homes, their work, their travels, their rest. Let them know the comfort of being held when the world feels unpredictable. May they taste the same peace I seek here in your presence. I also ask that this covering would shape the way I live today. If I am protected, let me walk with confidence, not timidity. If I am shielded, let me face the challenges ahead without dread. If I am secure in you, let me be generous with others, extending compassion instead of being consumed by my own fears. Being under your shadow is not only about safety, but about strength. Not only about refuge, but about renewal. Lord, let this truth sink deeply into my heart. I do not have to fight alone. I do not have to stand exposed. I am not left to fend for myself. I belong to the Almighty, whose power is greater than every storm, whose presence is closer than every fear, whose shadow is wide enough to cover every wound. This is the confidence I carry into this day. When night falls again and uncertainty rises, I will remember this morning. I will recall the peace that filled me beneath your wings. I will hold fast to the truth that even in the dark, your shadow is not absence but protection. You remain the same, faithful to guard, faithful to comfort, faithful to be near. So here I rest, Lord, beneath the shelter of your love. I lift my eyes knowing that no threat is greater than your strength, and no fear is deeper than your care. I choose to dwell here, to linger in the safety of this covering, and to walk into this day with courage born not of myself, but of your unshakable presence. Father, resting under the safety of your covering has reminded me of how fragile my heart truly is. When I feel secure in your presence, I become aware of the wounds I have carried quietly for so long. Wounds no one else may see, but that shape the way I think, speak, and live. They are not always the scars on the surface that others can recognize. Some are deep within, covered by smiles and responsibilities, but still tender to the touch. I bring these hidden places to you now, trusting that you are gentle enough to enter them and strong enough to heal them. Lord, I confess that I have tried to ignore these wounds. I have told myself that time would make them fade, that if I kept moving forward, they would somehow disappear. But time has not erased them. It has only buried them beneath layers of silence, memories of betrayal, words that cut deeper than blades, the ache of abandonment, and the sting of failure. They linger even when I try to convince myself I have forgotten. I realize that pretending to be unhurt has only hardened me, making me cautious where I once was open, fearful where I once was free. God, you know every wound I carry. You see the nights when tears came quietly, the mornings when I hid my pain behind a mask of strength, the moments when I pushed others away because I did not want them to see how broken I was inside. You know the story behind each hidden bruise, and you do not turn away in disgust or impatience. Instead, you bend close, inviting me to let you touch what I have kept locked away. I remember how the prophet wrote that you heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. I hold on to that promise now, asking you to do for me what I cannot do for myself. I cannot close these wounds with sheer willpower. I cannot erase the words spoken over me or undo the choices that left me wounded. But you can take what has been torn and mend it with threads of mercy. You can breathe life into places that feel numb, light into places that feel forgotten, peace into places that feel haunted. Father, I ask you to bring healing not only to the wounds caused by others, but also to those I have inflicted upon myself, my own decisions, my own failures. My own patterns of fear have left marks on my soul. Sometimes the hardest forgiveness to receive is the one I must extend to myself. Help me to embrace the truth that your grace covers even the mistakes I cannot forget. Let me see myself not through the lens of my regrets, but through the eyes of your mercy. In this moment, I open the doors I have long kept shut. I invite you into the corridors of my memory, where I still feel the weight of disappointment. I invite you into the hidden corners where grief has built its home. I invite you into the fragile spaces where I have been too afraid to let anyone else enter. I do not know how the healing will come, but I know that it begins with allowing you to be present here. Lord, let your healing flow like oil poured gently on wounded skin. Let it soak into the places that ache, softening the hardness, soothing the rawness, quieting the pain. Let your love be the bandage that holds me together while I mend, the steady hand that keeps me from tearing the wound open again. Remind me that healing is not always instant, but often a journey, and that every step toward wholeness is still a victory in your eyes. As you heal me, shape me into someone who can carry healing to others. Teach me compassion born not from pity, but from understanding. Teach me patience with those who are still bleeding, kindness with those who lash out in their hurt, gentleness with those who are afraid to trust again. Let my scars become testimonies of your restoration, reminders that no wound is beyond your reach. Father, I also bring before you the wounds of those I love. You know the silent pain they carry, the memories they do not speak aloud, The fears that hold them captive, cover them with the same mercy I ask for myself. Let your presence meet them in their loneliness. Your hand steady them in their weakness. Your spirit breathe hope into their despair. May the healing that begins in me ripple outward, touching the lives of those around me with the fragrance of restoration. As I sit in this quiet hour of the morning, I begin to sense that healing is already taking root. The H does not vanish all at once, but there is a gentleness where once there was sharp pain. There is a calm where once there was unrest. There is a faint song of hope where once there was only silence. This is the evidence of your hand at work, and I choose to believe that you will finish what you have begun. So I rise from this place not untouched but mending, not unscarred but renewed, not unchanged but transformed by the tenderness of your love. The hidden wounds no longer hold power over me, because they are now held within the hands of the one who heals. Father, as your healing begins to touch the hidden wounds of my heart, I recognize that some of the deepest pain I carry is bound to the chains of unforgiveness. The memories that ache most sharply are not only of what happened to me, but also of how I have clung to the bitterness left behind. In moments of hurt, anger seemed to give me strength, but over time it hollowed me, leaving me heavy and restless. Today, in the light of your presence, I see that true strength is not in holding on to resentment, but in releasing it into your hands. Lord, I admit how difficult it is for me to let go. Part of me feels that if I forgive, I am saying the wrong did not matter, that the wound was not real, but you remind me that forgiveness does not erase the truth of the pain. It frees me from being chained to it. It is not about denying the wound, but about choosing to no longer let it define my life. Forgiveness does not minimize the hurt, but magnifies your mercy. I bring before you the faces and names that rise in my memory, those who spoke words that pierced, those who betrayed trust, those who abandoned when I needed them most. I confess that I have rehearsed their actions in my mind, replayed the conversations, and built walls around my heart because of them. But holding them captive has only held me captive too. So here, Father, I open my clenched fists. I release them to you, not because they deserve it, but because I need freedom. God, I ask you to teach me what forgiveness looks like in practice. It may not always be reconciliation, but it will always be release. It may not mean forgetting, but it means choosing not to let anger poison me again. It may not mean trust is instantly restored, but it means bitterness no longer has a throne in my heart. Show me how to walk each step of this choice, especially when old wounds whisper and I feel tempted to pick up the weight again. I also ask for courage to forgive myself. Sometimes the hardest person to release is the one in the mirror. I carry guilt for words I should not have spoken, for choices that left damage behind, for opportunities I let slip away. Yet if you have forgiven me, who am I to keep myself chained? Break the cycle of self-condemnation within me. Let me accept the gift of your mercy fully, without constantly reopening the door to shame. Father, I think of how forgiveness transforms not just the heart, but also the atmosphere around me. Where there is forgiveness, there is peace. Where there is forgiveness, there is room for joy to grow again. Where there is forgiveness, There is strength that cannot be shaken by bitterness. Let this forgiveness spill over into my relationships. Let it soften my words, make me patient in conflict, and generous with grace. Let those around me sense that freedom has entered my life, because I have chosen to release rather than reason. Lord, help me also to understand that forgiveness is not weakness. It is not surrendering to injustice, but refusing to be defined by it. It is standing in the strength of your love, which cannot be diminished by offense. It is the courage to trust that you are the ultimate judge, that you see clearly where I cannot, and that you will bring justice in your way and your time. I do not need to carry vengeance when your hands hold the world. This morning I declare forgiveness as an act of faith. I choose to walk lighter, no longer dragging chains of bitterness through the hours of my day. I choose to create space for love to flourish, for peace to settle, for hope to bloom where anger once burned. I choose to reflect the mercy I myself have received from you, knowing that without it I would still be lost. Father, I thank you that forgiveness is possible not because of my strength, but because of yours. Left to myself, I would remain bound, but with you, I can rise above the weight of offense and step into freedom. Let this forgiveness mark me not just for today, but as a rhythm for the rest of my life. When new wounds come, as they surely will, remind me of this moment, this release, this choice. Remind me that every act of forgiveness draws me closer to the heart of the one who forgives without measure. So I walk forward into this day with unclenched hands and a heart that has begun to breathe again. The strength of forgiveness is not in forgetting the pain, but in being freed from its control. And with each step, I feel the strength of your spirit holding me, reminding me that I am never more like you than when I choose to forgive. Lord, as forgiveness loosens the chains that have bound my heart, I become aware of other ties that reach deeper than my own choices. Some of the struggles I face seem older than me, as though they were written into the story long before I had a voice to resist them. Patterns of fear, anger, addiction, and brokenness have passed from one generation to the next, shaping families like rivers carve valleys. This morning I bring these inherited burdens into your presence, believing that you are able to break what has persisted for years and create a new path forward. Father, I recognize how easy it is to dismiss these struggles as destiny, to shrug and say that this is simply the way my family has always been. But I do not want to live bound to cycles of pain just because they are familiar. I do not want to pass along to others what I have inherited without question. You have called me to freedom. And freedom means not only release from my own failures, but also from the weight of generational patterns that do not belong to me. I think of the stories told in my family, of broken relationships that became expected, of tempers that boiled over without restraint, of silence that kept us from healing, of choices that echoed through decades. I confess that at times I have felt powerless against them, as though I was destined to repeat what I once despised. But in you, I find courage to declare that these cycles will not define the rest of my days. God, I ask you to reach back into my lineage with the power of your redemption, Touch the roots of bitterness that were planted long before me. Heal the wounds that shaped generations. Break the chains that tightened around families like mine, whispering that nothing can ever change. Let your spirit write a new story that begins with me. Not because I am strong enough to resist, but because I choose to surrender these patterns into your hands. Father, I ask you to bless the generations that came before me, even as I release their failures. I do not stand here in judgment, but in hope. I thank you for the faith, resilience, and love that also flowed through their lives. Even in the midst of weakness, I believe that the good will continue to flourish, while the destructive patterns will end with me. I ask you to redeem their stories through mine, to let what was broken become a testimony of restoration in the lives that follow. I also pray for those who come after me. May they not inherit chains, but blessings. May they receive faith instead of fear, compassion instead of bitterness, courage instead of shame. Let my decisions today shape a future where they walk in freedom I never knew, where they rise above struggles that once defined our name. I want to leave behind not curses, but legacies of love, resilience, and faithfulness. Lord, I know that breaking patterns will not always be easy. Habits run deep, and the enemy delights in convincing me that change is impossible. But I remember that you specialize in making all things new. You take what seems unchangeable and breathe life into it. You take what is bound by history and rewrite it with hope. With you, no chain is too strong, no story too fixed, no family too broken. So I stand in this moment and declare that the old cycles lose their power over me. I will not allow fear to dictate my steps. I will not allow anger to rule my relationships. I will not allow shame to silence me. I will not allow despair to become the inheritance of those who follow me. Instead, I will walk in the freedom of your spirit, trusting that every choice of surrender is another break in the chain, another door opening toward hope. God, I ask you to place new rhythms in my life. Teach me patience where impatience was the norm. Teach me gentleness where harshness was expected. Teach me generosity where scarcity once ruled. Teach me faith where doubt had its grip. Let these rhythms become habits. Habits become patterns, and patterns become a legacy that glorifies you. Father, I bring before you every hidden fear that tells me I will fail, every whisper that says nothing will change. I silence them with the truth of your word that says, I am a new creation, that the old has gone and the new has come. I choose to believe this even when I feel the tug of the past. I choose to walk forward, one step at a time, into the future you have promised. So here in the quiet of this morning, I make this declaration. The story changes with me. What has bound generations will end in your presence. What has weighed heavily will be lifted by your spirit. What has echoed with despair will resound with hope, and I will rise into this day lighter, freer, and ready to build a legacy rooted not in chains, but in the unshakable love of God. Father, after releasing the chains of the past and asking you to break the cycles that weighed on generations, I now turn to the present temple where my spirit resides. My body, with all its frailty and strength, is the vessel that carries me through each day. It bears the marks of stress, the fatigue of restless nights, the strain of responsibilities, and the scars of illness and injury. I confess that too often I have treated this body as though it were unimportant, ignoring its signals, neglecting its care, or resenting its weakness. Today I bring it before you, not to worship it, but to invite your wholeness into every cell, every breath, every heartbeat. Lord, you formed me with intention, knitting me together with care. You designed every system, every rhythm, every hidden detail. You gave my lungs the breath of life, and my heart the steady pulse that sustains me even while I sleep. You know the intricacies of my frame far more than I do. And you know where imbalance, strain, or sickness has crept in. I trust that nothing within me is beyond your attention. For you are both creator and healer, God. I ask you to bring strength where there is weakness, where fatigue has drained me. Restore vitality where pain has lingered. Bring relief where sickness has touched me. Let your healing hand bring restoration. I do not come demanding perfection, but seeking alignment with your design. I know this body will one day return to dust. Yet while it carries me through this life, I ask that it may serve with strength, resilience, and purpose. I confess the ways I have mistreated this gift. I have pushed past exhaustion, ignored boundaries, consumed what does not nourish, and filled my days with stress that wears me down. Forgive me for failing to honor this body as a sacred trust from you. Teach me to listen to its needs without being ruled by its cravings. Teach me to steward it with wisdom, caring for it not out of vanity, but out of reverence for the one who dwells within me. Father, I also bring before you the deeper wounds of the body that carry emotional weight. Some aches remind me of past injuries. Some scars remind me of difficult seasons. And some limitations remind me of my humanity. Instead of despising them, let me see them as places where your grace has sustained me. Let every scar become a reminder of survival, every weakness a doorway for your strength, every limitation a chance to lean on you more fully. I lift up not only my own body, but also those of the people I love. You see the battles they face, whether through illness, chronic pain, or fragile health. Surround them with comfort, guide their caregivers with wisdom, and breathe peace into their anxious moments. Let your presence be felt in hospital rooms, in sleepless nights, in quiet prayers whispered over aching bodies. Let hope rise even when medicine feels limited, reminding us all that healing can come in many forms, both physical and spiritual. God, I believe that wholeness is more than just the absence of sickness. It is the harmony of body, mind, and spirit working together in alignment with you, where stress has disturbed my balance. Bring calm where worry has tightened my chest. Bring release where grief has weakened my frame. Bring renewal. Let your spirit move through me like a gentle wind, restoring rhythm where there has been disruption. I also ask for discipline. Father, healing may come miraculously, but health is sustained through daily choices, Grant me the wisdom to rest when I need rest, to nourish myself with what brings strength, to move in ways that keep me resilient, and to honor the rhythms of work and recovery. Let these practices not be burdens, but acts of worship, reminders that every breath is a gift and every heartbeat a reason for gratitude. Lord, I place my future health in your hands. Whatever comes, I trust you to be my sustainer. If I face weakness, let it be a place where your power shines brighter. If I walk through illness, let it become a testimony of your presence. If I enjoy strength, let me use it to serve others and not myself alone. Above all, let my body be a living vessel of your love, carrying compassion into every space, carrying hope into every conversation, carrying kindness into every encounter. So I rise into this day aware of my frailty, yet filled with gratitude for this gift of life. My body is not perfect, but it is held by the one who is. My steps may falter, but they are guided by your hand. My strength may wane, but it is renewed in your presence. Let me walk today with reverence for this temple you have entrusted to me, living not in fear of weakness, but in the joy of wholeness that comes from you. Lord, as my body rests in your care, and I seek wholeness in the vessel you created, I recognize that true health cannot be separated from the renewal of my mind. My thoughts are like the currents of a river, shaping the landscape of my days. When they flow with fear, they carve valleys of despair. When they run with doubt, they erode confidence and joy. Yet when they are anchored in your truth, they bring life, clarity, and peace. This morning I place my mind before you, asking you to cleanse it, refresh it, and align it with what is good and eternal. Father, I confess that too often my thoughts wander into places that drain me. Worries replay like broken records, rehearsing scenarios that may never happen. Old words of criticism echo long after they were spoken, shaping how I see myself. Distractions pull me in countless directions, leaving me restless and unfocused. I cannot control every thought that arises, but I can choose what I dwell upon. So I ask you to teach me to filter my thoughts through the lens of your Spirit, rejecting what poisons and holding fast to what strengthens. God, I invite your truth to take root deeper than the lies that have whispered in my mind. Where shame has spoken, let me hear your voice calling me beloved. Where fear has shouted, let me hear your assurance that I am not alone. Where doubt has clouded my vision, let me see the light of your promises cutting through. Let my inner dialogue be reshaped not by old wounds or worldly noise, but by the steady rhythm of your word. I ask you to give me discipline in my thinking. Just as the body requires care, the mind requires training. Teach me to notice when my thoughts spiral into negativity and to gently redirect them toward hope. Teach me to pause when anger builds and to replace it with understanding. Teach me to silence the comparison that breeds envy and to cultivate gratitude instead. Let these practices become natural rhythms so that peace reigns more often than turmoil. Father, I also pray for imagination that is sanctified by you. Too often I have used imagination to replay regrets or to magnify fears. Instead, let me envision the beauty of what you are creating, the possibilities of love, the hope of restoration, and the joy of futures not yet seen. Let my imagination fuel faith instead of anxiety, creativity instead of despair, compassion instead of judgment. Lord, I acknowledge that renewing the mind is not a one-time event, but a daily journey. Each morning I must choose again to focus on what is pure, noble, and true. Some days it will feel easier, and other days I will wrestle more fiercely against old patterns. But in every moment, your Spirit is near, reminding me that transformation is possible. With every surrendered thought, I am being reshaped into the likeness of Christ, one quiet decision at a time. I pray also for protection over my mind. The world is loud, filled with messages that stir fear, comparison, greed, and despair. Guard me against voices that distort truth. Help me to be wise about what I consume, what I allow to take root, and what I meditate on. Place a shield over my mind so that I may walk in clarity, even when confusion surrounds me. Father, I thank you for the gift of memory. Even though it sometimes holds pain, it also holds reminders of your faithfulness. Let me recall moments where you carried me, answered prayers, and brought unexpected joy. Let these memories strengthen me when new challenges arise. Remind me that if you were faithful before, you will be faithful again. As I step into this day, I long for a mind that is not weighed down but lifted, a mind that notices beauty in ordinary places, that pauses to give thanks for small mercies, that chooses kindness over criticism. Let my thoughts not only shape me, but also overflow into how I speak and act, so that others may feel peace in my presence because my mind is anchored in you. So here, in the stillness of this morning, I offer you the landscape of my thoughts. Clear away the debris of fear, bitterness, and doubt. Plant seeds of truth, joy, and trust that will grow stronger with time. Let my mind become a garden where your Spirit walks freely, where your word is remembered, where peace flows like a stream that never runs dry. And as my body moves through the hours ahead, let my renewed mind guide me to live not in reaction, but in faith, not in confusion, but in clarity, not in despair, but in steadfast hope. Father, as my mind finds renewal in your truth and begins to release the weight of old lies, I feel the invitation to go even deeper into the places where pain still lingers. There are wounds I have carried for years, sometimes hidden beneath layers of strength, sometimes spilling out in unexpected tears or sudden anger. These hurts are heavy, pressing against my heart like stones I have forgotten how to set down. Today I bring them to you, asking not just for comfort, but for courage to finally let them go. Lord, I admit that letting go feels risky. Pain, as unwelcome as it is, has become familiar. At times it feels safer to hold on than to release, as though clinging to the memory protects me from being hurt again. But I realize that the longer I grasp it, the more it shapes me in ways I do not want. Resentment sharpens my tone, fear tightens my steps, and sorrow clouds the joy you desire for me. Letting go is not forgetting, but it is choosing not to let the wound have the last word. God, I bring before you the moments that broke me, the words that cut deeper than a blade, the silence that echoed when I needed presence, the betrayal that left me hollow, the loss that shattered my sense of safety. I do not diminish them. They were real, and they left marks. Yet I choose to place them in your hands, because my hands are too small to carry them any longer. What I cannot heal, you can restore. What I cannot control, you hold within your wisdom. Father, I ask you to exchange my heaviness for lightness, my sorrow for hope, my bitterness for peace. Teach me how to release not just once, but continually, for I know that pain has a way of resurfacing. When memories revisit, remind me that I have already given them to you. When fear rises again, steady me with the assurance of your love. When anger stirs, whisper that freedom is found not in holding on, but in surrendering all. I think of how letting go is like unclenching fists that have been tight for too long. My hands ache from gripping what was never mine to resolve. As I open them before you, I feel the relief of release, the fresh air of freedom rushing in where once there was only tension. Teach me to live with open hands, willing to release not only the past, but also the need to control the future. For if you are truly with me, I can trust both what has been and what is yet to come. Lord, I ask for healing in the places where pain has altered how I see myself. For too long I have defined my worth through the lens of what was lost, what was spoken, what was broken. But you see me whole, loved, and chosen, because of what I endured, but because of who you are. Let this identity sink deeper than every wound, reminding me that hurt may shape my story, but it does not define my soul. God, help me also to extend grace to those who caused pain, not because it excuses what was done, but because I refuse to live imprisoned by it. I know that bitterness is a chain that binds me to the past, but forgiveness unlocks the door to freedom. I ask you to strengthen me when releasing feels impossible, to remind me that I am never more like you than when I let mercy flow through me. Father, I also release myself from the weight of self-blame. Some hurts I caused by my own choices, and I have carried regret like a shadow that follows me into every room. I surrender these regrets to you. Let your mercy wash them clean, and let me walk forward lighter, not constantly rehearsing what I cannot undo. Teach me that letting go includes letting go of shame, and in its place, receiving your grace. As I step into this day, I choose to loosen my grip on pain and tighten my hold on hope. I will not deny that wounds exist, but I will not let them dictate the rhythm of my life. I will breathe deeper, smile more freely, and walk with a steadiness that comes not from ignoring sorrow, but from placing it in your care. Letting go is not weakness. It is trust. It is believing that what I release will be transformed by your hands into something I could never shape on my own. So here I stand, lighter than before, not because the past has vanished, but because I no longer carry it alone. I give it to you, and in exchange, I receive peace. I give you what hurts, and in return, you give me yourself. That is enough, and it is more than enough, to carry me into this day with a heart unburdened and a soul ready to live fully again. Father, after laying down the heavy burdens of pain and choosing to release what I once clung to, there is a quietness that follows. At first, it feels almost unfamiliar, as though I have stepped into a room where the noise has suddenly ceased. For so long, The clamor of hurt and the weight of regret filled every corner of my soul. Now, in their absence, I feel the stillness settle, a silence that is not empty, but full of your presence. In this stillness, I learn that surrender does not end with letting go. It opens the door to peace that flows deeper than understanding. Lord, I realize how rare it is to pause in this world. My days are filled with movement, responsibilities, conversations, and distractions. Yet here in the quiet, I sense the rhythm of your spirit, steady and unhurried. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of calm. My heart, once restless, begins to slow its racing. My mind, once tangled in endless thoughts, begins to breathe. In the stillness after surrender, I find you waiting, not with demands, but with gentle assurance that I am safe in your hands. God, I confess that at times silence has frightened me. It seemed to expose what I was trying to avoid. But in your presence, silence becomes sacred. It is not a void but a sanctuary. It is here that my soul begins to listen, not just with ears, but with the deep awareness of my spirit. I hear the quiet whisper of your love reminding me that I am not alone. I hear the assurance that though storms may roar outside, there is an anchor within me that holds. Father, I ask you to teach me to embrace this stillness daily, not as an escape, but as a foundation. Let me learn to rest in it, to draw strength from it, to return to it when the chaos of life presses close. The world pushes me to strive, to hurry, to prove, but you invite me to rest, to trust, to simply be. In surrender I lay down what I cannot control, and in stillness I discover that I was never meant to carry it alone. I think of how a lake reflects the sky when it is calm, but when winds disturb its surface, the reflection shatters. So too my soul mirrors your presence when it is still. In the turbulence of fear and striving, I cannot see clearly. But when I rest in surrender, your image becomes visible in me again. Let my life be a reflection of your peace, shining quietly yet powerfully into the spaces I enter. Lord, I ask that this stillness not remain confined to the early morning hours, but become a rhythm throughout my day. When conversations grow tense, remind me of the calm I found here. When decisions weigh heavily, remind me of the peace that comes from trusting you. When unexpected troubles rise, let me return to the stillness, even if only for a breath, and remember that I am held. God, I also pray that this stillness would heal the anxious places within me. For too long, worry has dictated my thoughts, convincing me that if I did not hold tightly to control, everything would unravel. But here in this silence, I sense the truth. The world does not rest on my shoulders. You are the one who holds it all together, and I am invited to rest in that reality. Let this understanding soak into my spirit until it becomes second nature to trust rather than to strive. Father, I bring before you the people who struggle to find peace, those whose lives are loud with conflict, whose minds never quiet, whose hearts feel unsettled. Let them experience what I now taste in these moments. The stillness after surrender. Whisper to them in ways they can hear. Surround them with assurance that they are not abandoned. Let them rest even if circumstances remain unchanged, because your presence is enough to carry them. In this stillness, I also become aware of gratitude rising. When the noise fades, I notice the small mercies I once overlooked, the breath in my lungs, the light beginning to stretch across the sky, the simple fact that I am alive to meet this day. Gratitude blooms when striving ceases, and it fills the quiet with joy that cannot be manufactured. Teach me to nurture this gratitude as part of the stillness, letting it remind me of your goodness even when life feels uncertain. So I rest here, in the silence that follows surrender, and I let it wash over me like a gentle tide. My soul is not empty but filled, not restless but calm, not alone but accompanied. The stillness is not the end of prayer, but the space where prayer becomes presence. And in this sacred presence, I know I am where I was always meant to be, resting, trusting, and breathing in the peace that only you can give. Father, in the stillness that follows surrender, I begin to sense another reality unfolding within me, the quiet yet undeniable strength of grace. It does not rush in like a storm, nor does it demand attention with loud declarations. Instead, it arrives softly, like the warmth of sunlight touching the earth after a cold night. It settles into places where fear once lingered, into cracks where pain tried to root itself, into shadows where doubt once thrived. Grace comes gently, yet it carries a strength that can move mountains inside the human heart. Lord, I realize that grace has always been here, even in moments when I was unaware. When I stumbled, it caught me. When I resisted, it pursued me. When I felt unworthy, it whispered my worth. Now, as I rest from striving and loosen my grip on control, I finally notice how steadily it has been carrying me all along. I am reminded that I am not sustained by my own discipline or determination, but by the unmerited favor of the one who never lets go. God, I confess that I often misunderstand grace. At times I treat it as if it were permission to remain unchanged, when in truth it is the very force that transforms. At other times I treat it as too good to be real, doubting that such mercy could truly cover my failures. Yet the more I lean into it, the more I discover its reality. Grace is not fragile, it is fierce. It does not excuse brokenness. It heals it. It does not ignore truth. It fulfills it with love that refuses to withdraw. Father, I ask that grace would continue to shape the way I live. Let it soften the edges of my words, so that kindness flows even in tension. Let it steady my steps, so that I do not stumble under the weight of perfectionism. Let it open my hands to give generously, knowing I have already been given more than I deserve. Let it widen my perspective so I can see others not as enemies or obstacles, but as souls equally in need of mercy. Lord, grace is not only what I receive, but also what I am called to extend. I think of those who have hurt me, those who frustrate me, those whose paths cross mine in moments of tension. Without grace, I would demand justice on my terms, repayment for every offense. But with grace, I find a new way that chooses patience over retaliation, compassion over judgment, hope over cynicism. This is not natural to me. It is the miracle of your Spirit working through me. God, I also ask for grace toward myself. Too often I have been my own harshest critic, speaking words to myself I would never dare speak to another. I have measured my worth by achievements, compared my progress to others, and punished myself for weaknesses I cannot erase. But grace reminds me that I am enough, because you are enough. It invites me to rest, to breathe, to live without the constant pressure of proving myself. It tells me I am already loved beyond measure, even in imperfection. Father, I am struck by how grace transforms weakness into strength. It is not through striving that I become whole, but through yielding. It is not through perfection that I find peace, but through acceptance of mercy. This strength is unlike anything the world teaches. The world prizes power, achievement, control, but grace teaches humility, surrender, and dependence. And yet, in this dependence, I find resilience that cannot be shaken, a strength that rises quietly but steadily, like roots deep in the ground. Lord, I pray that grace would ripple outward from my life into the lives of those around me. Let my presence be marked not by judgment, but by understanding, not by criticism, but by compassion. Let others encounter in me a glimpse of the mercy I myself received. May conversations be softened by it, conflicts disarmed by it, relationships restored by it. Grace is the fragrance of your love, and I want my life to carry that fragrance wherever I go. In this moment, I feel the paradox of grace. It is gentle yet unyielding, quiet yet unshakable, tender yet mighty. It does not roar, but it cannot be stopped. It does not force, but it transforms. It does not abandon, but it pursues. And as it moves through me, I realize that I am not the same as before. Slowly, steadily, grace is remaking me. So I rise into this day with gratitude for this gift I cannot earn and yet cannot lose. I step forward not in fear of failure, but in assurance of mercy. I open my hands not in despair, but in generosity. I face others not with suspicion, but with kindness. The gentle strength of grace is enough to sustain me, enough to transform me, enough to carry me into every moment ahead. And in its embrace, I find both rest and resilience, tenderness and courage, gentleness and power. Father, as I rest in the gentle strength of grace, I begin to understand that transformation does not come from the outside pressing in, but from the inside, breaking forth. What is built upon appearances can be shaken, but what you rebuild within the heart becomes unshakable. For too long I have focused on the surface, on what others see, on what I can measure, on what I can achieve. Yet beneath it all, my soul has cried out for something deeper. Now I see that you are not interested in patching up the old, but in rebuilding me entirely from the inside out. Lord, this rebuilding does not happen in a moment. It is a slow and steady work, like the careful restoration of a house long weathered by storms. The foundation must be examined, the cracks acknowledged, the broken beams replaced. It requires honesty to admit what is fragile, patience to wait through the process, and trust to allow the hands of the builder to do what only he can do. Today I lay myself open before you, asking you to take every hidden place, every broken piece, and begin your work of renewal. God, I confess that part of me fears this rebuilding. To tear down what is unstable means facing the emptiness beneath. To allow you to reconstruct means surrendering control of the design, it deep within. I know that your blueprint is better than mine, that what you design will stand when my own efforts fail. So I choose to trust the process, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it takes longer than I imagined. Father, I ask you to rebuild my character where it has been worn thin by compromise. Strengthen the beams of integrity so that I stand firm even when unseen. Restore the walls of patience where they have been weakened by frustration. Replace the broken boards of pride with the humility that gives room for your spirit to dwell. May the structure of my inner life be one that reflects your goodness, not my striving. Lord, I also ask you to rebuild my capacity for love. Where bitterness has corroded, let forgiveness flow. Where fear has narrowed my heart, let courage expand it again. Where self-protection has closed me off, let compassion break through. I want to love not in words alone, but in actions that flow naturally from a heart rebuilt by grace. Teach me to see others through your eyes, not through the lens of my wounds. God, rebuild my resilience where life has left me weary. The storms of disappointment, the weight of responsibilities, and the sting of loss have weakened my resolve at times. But you are able to restore strength like the renewing of youth, to breathe courage into weary bones, to plant hope where despair once grew. Let my resilience not be rooted in stubbornness, but in the steady trust that you are always with me, no matter what I face. Father, I ask you also to rebuild my vision. Too often I have looked at the future through the haze of fear or the fog of regret. Clear my eyes so that I may see possibility where I once saw only limitation, so that I may look ahead with anticipation rather than dread. Align my dreams with your purposes, so that what I hope for is not small or selfish, but expansive and generous. Give me eyes to see the beauty of what is possible when you are the one building my life. Lord, I know that rebuilding is not only for my sake, but also for those whose lives touch mine. A house restored becomes a shelter for others, and a life renewed becomes a testimony of hope. Let the work you do in me ripple outward, offering strength to those who feel weak, courage to those who feel defeated, and comfort to those who feel alone. May my story of rebuilding become a reminder that no life is beyond repair when surrendered to you. God, I stand here aware of how fragile I am, yet how strong you are. I cannot rebuild myself, but I can offer you the broken pieces and trust that your hands are steady enough to create something new. You are not discouraged by what is ruined. You are excited by what can be restored. And in that hope, I find courage to step forward into the process, knowing that what you begin, you will also finish. So I rise into this day not as one who is finished, but as one who is being remade. The walls of my heart may still bear cracks, but they are being mended. The foundations of my spirit may have shifted, but they are being reinforced. The structure of my life may look unfinished, but it is under construction by the one whose craftsmanship is perfect, and that is enough to carry me one step at a time, as I allow you to rebuild me from the inside out. Father, as you continue the work of rebuilding within me, there are moments when I encounter a different kind of struggle, not the weight of pain, not the storm of fear, but the silence that settles when I long to hear you and cannot. It is a silence that feels heavy, stretching across my prayers like an unanswered question. I pour out words, but they seem to echo back without reply. I search for signs, but the sky looks blank. I reach, and it feels as though my hands close around air. In these times, I wrestle not with doubt about your existence, but with longing for your voice. Lord, I know that silence does not mean absence. Yet my heart sometimes trembles under the stillness. I have grown accustomed to hearing you in the whispers of peace, in the stirring of scripture, in the small confirmations that remind me I am seen. When those seem distant, I am tempted to wonder if I have done something wrong, if I have strayed too far, if perhaps you have turned away. But then I remember the truth that even in silence, you remain present. Even when I cannot trace your hand, I can trust your heart, God. I think of how the night sky looks empty, yet beyond what I can see, galaxies shine in vastness. In the same way, even when my soul feels dark, you are still at work beyond my vision. Silence is not the void of activity, but the invitation to trust. It is the place where my faith is tested, not through dramatic signs, but through the quiet endurance of believing when I cannot feel. Father, I confess how quickly I grow restless in these silent seasons. I want immediate answers, quick reassurance, visible direction. But perhaps the silence is teaching me to slow down, to listen in a different way, to discover that faith is not built only on experiences, but on trust that holds steady when experiences fade. In the silence, I discover how fragile my dependence on feelings can be, and how deeply I need to anchor myself in the constancy of your promises. Lord, I ask you to help me not to mistake silence for neglect. Teach me to see it instead as the pause between notes in a song, the space that gives meaning to the melody. Without silence, music is only noise. Without quiet seasons, faith cannot grow strong. Let me rest in the truth that you are shaping me in ways I may not yet understand. Even when I hear nothing at all, God, I bring before you the weight of unanswered prayers. Some have lingered for months, others for years. Each time I lift them, I hope for resolution, yet often they return unanswered, leaving me in the tension of waiting. In the silence, I feel the ache of longing, but I also learn to let go of control, to trust that timing belongs to you and not to me. Teach me patience here, the kind of patience that is not resignation but hope that waits with expectation, even when the days stretch long. Father, I ask for faith to see silence as sacred. When words run dry and prayers feel empty, let me remember that even groans too deep for speech are heard by you. When no answer comes, let me believe that your silence may itself be an answer, calling me deeper into trust, teaching me to lean not on signs, but on the certainty of your love. Lord, I also think of how silence can refine my listening. When the noise of life fades, and even your voice feels hidden, I begin to notice subtler ways you speak. In the kindness of a stranger, in the resilience of creation, in the quiet conviction rising within me. Perhaps silence is not the absence of speech, but the widening of my hearing. Open my ears to notice what I once overlooked, to perceive the gentle ways you remind me of your nearness. God, I lift to you those who are weary from your silence, those who pray with tears and find no answer, those who cry out in desperation and feel unseen. Wrap them in the assurance that even when they cannot hear, they are still held. Remind them, as you remind me, that silence is not abandonment, but often preparation. Something is being shaped in the unseen, something that will one day be revealed with clarity and purpose. So I remain here, in this moment of silence, not running from it, not resenting it, but resting within it. I choose to believe that you are closer than my breath, even when I cannot feel you. I choose to believe that your silence holds meaning, that it is filled with love, not distance. And though my heart longs for the sound of your voice, I will not let the silence steal my faith. Instead, I will let it deepen my trust, strengthen my endurance, and anchor me in the unshakable truth that you are with me. Always, Lord, as I sit in the quiet of your silence, I am reminded that sometimes the way through is not found in what I hear in the moment, but in what I remember from before. Memory becomes an anchor when the present feels uncertain. I recall the times you carried me when I was too weak to walk, the prayers that once seemed unanswered, but later unfolded into blessings. The nights I thought I was alone but discovered your hand had been guiding me all along. These memories rise like lanterns in the dark, reminding me that silence is never the end of the story. Father, I confess that I often forget quickly. The pressures of today can overshadow the miracles of yesterday. Worry blinds me to gratitude, and fear drowns out remembrance. Yet when I pause and recall, my spirit is lifted. I see patterns of faithfulness woven through the years, threads of grace connecting moments I thought were random. Remembering gives me perspective. It shows me that what felt like delays were often preparations, that what looked like endings were beginnings, that what seemed broken was quietly being healed. God, I ask you to help me cultivate a rhythm of remembrance. Let me not wait for despair to force me into reflection, but choose daily to recall your goodness. Teach me to notice the small mercies, the breath I inhale, the sunrise that greets me, the kindness of others, the resilience that surprises me. Let gratitude anchor itself in memory, so that even when today feels heavy, I can lean on the weight of yesterday's blessings to steady my heart. Lord, I also think of the stories passed down through generations, testimonies of your faithfulness that echo through history, the Psalms of David, the deliverance of Israel, the courage of those who walked before me in faith. All of them remind me that you have always been present, always moving, always redeeming. Remembering is not only personal but collective, a reminder that I am part of a larger story that stretches beyond me. My struggles are not new, and neither is your faithfulness. Father, I recall the times I thought I was forgotten, only to look back later and see that you had never left. When doors closed, it was to lead me toward the right ones. When delays came, they protected me from roads I was not ready to walk. When people left, it created space for those who would nurture my growth. These memories remind me that even when I cannot see the purpose now, there will come a day when I will look back and recognize the fingerprints of your love all over this season. God, I pray that remembering would shape the way I face the future. If you were faithful then, you will be faithful now. If you carried me before, you will carry me again. Let memory not only comfort, but also propel me forward with courage. I do not need to see every step when I have the assurance of every step already taken. The past is not a chain but a testimony, and it gives me hope that the same God who worked then is working still. Lord, I also ask for the humility to share my memories with others, to speak of your goodness so that they too may be encouraged. Sometimes another's heart is lifted not by new words, but by hearing an old truth retold. Let me be willing to testify, not with polished stories, but with honest accounts of how you met me in my weakness, surprised me in my doubt, and restored me in my brokenness. My remembering becomes someone else's strength, just as theirs becomes mine. Father, I bring before you the memories that are painful too. Some I would rather forget, yet even they can be redeemed when I see how you sustained me through them. They remind me not of my failure, but of your endurance. They remind me not of loss, but of the way you comforted me in grief. Even painful memories can be transformed into monuments of your mercy if I allow them to point to you instead of to my wounds. So here I am, recalling not just events but encounters, not just history but holy moments where you broke into my ordinary life with extraordinary grace. These memories fuel my faith when silence tempts me to doubt. They become the proof that, though I cannot always feel you now, I have known you then. And that is enough to believe you are here still. God, I choose today to remember, to let gratitude flood my heart, to let testimony silence fear, to let memory guide me into trust. And as I carry these remembrances into the day, I hold them like treasures, knowing they are not just stories of the past, but promises for the future. What you have done before, you will do again, in ways beyond what I can see, in timing beyond what I can control, but always in love that never fails. Father, as I remember the countless ways you have carried me, something begins to stir in my heart that feels both new and ancient at the same time, the quiet return of wonder. Memory has reminded me of your faithfulness, but wonder invites me to see your hand in the present moment, alive and active, not only in what has been but in what is. I realize how easily the eyes of my soul can grow dim, dulled by routine, wearied by responsibility, blinded by familiarity. Yet when wonder awakens, the ordinary begins to shine again, and I see glimpses of you where I once only saw repetition. Lord, I confess that I have allowed cynicism to replace awe far too often. The world is quick to offer reasons, to be jaded disappointments, betrayals, the daily grind that steals joy quietly without notice. But I do not want to live with a tired spirit that only expects the worst. I long for the eyes of a child again, eyes that find delight in small mercies, that marvel at creation, that expect goodness instead of assuming disappointment. I long for wonder because wonder draws me closer to you. God, I ask you to reawaken in me the ability to notice what is sacred in the simple. Let me not overlook the miracle of breath, the gift of a sunrise, the laughter of a friend, the kindness of a stranger, the beauty of a song. These are not small things. They are whispers of eternity woven into the fabric of today. Teach me to look closely, to slow down, to breathe deeply, to receive each moment as if it were a gift wrapped in grace. Father, wonder not only awakens gratitude but also stirs hope. When I marvel at the vastness of the stars, I remember that my problems are not too great for you. When I gaze at the resilience of trees weathering storms, I remember that strength is possible even in hardship. When I notice the detail of a flower blooming, I remember that beauty can flourish even in broken soil. Wonder teaches me to believe again, to expect that your goodness can appear even in places I had written off as barren. Lord, I also pray that wonder would reshape how I see people. Too often I reduce others to labels, to their flaws, to the ways they have failed me. But when wonder awakens, I begin to see the mystery of souls created in your image. Each person I encounter is a reflection of divine craftsmanship, bearing dignity even when hidden beneath brokenness. Let me marvel at the courage it takes for them to rise each morning, at the unseen battles they fight, at the hidden beauty waiting to be noticed. Teach me to look with eyes that honor, not eyes that dismiss. God, wonder also softens my spirit toward you. In seasons where I have grown tired of waiting or weary from silence, awe becomes the bridge back to trust. When I stand in wonder at creation, at providence, at grace, I cannot help but believe again that you are near. Wonder shifts my focus from what I lack to the one who provides. It breaks the cycle of complaint and opens the floodgates of praise. Father, I ask that wonder not be fleeting, but become a rhythm of my life. Let me cultivate it intentionally by pausing before rushing into the day, by noticing instead of overlooking, by giving thanks for the simple instead of grasping for the spectacular. Let wonder turn even mundane tasks into sacred moments. Washing dishes can become gratitude for provision. Walking down a street can become awe at the lives around me. Work can become worship when seen through the lens of wonder. Lord, I bring before you the places where wonder has died in me, where disappointment extinguished awe, where cynicism suffocated joy. Breathe new life into those places. Replace suspicion with trust, boredom with curiosity, despair with expectancy. Remind me that life is not random, but filled with divine fingerprints waiting to be noticed. Let me be willing to search again, to look again, to believe again. God, I also pray for those whose hearts have grown numb, whose spirits feel dulled by endless struggle. May they too rediscover wonder, not in grand spectacles, but in the quiet kindness that meets them unexpectedly. Let their eyes be opened to beauty they had stopped seeing, to hope they thought was gone, to joy they believed was lost. Let them know that wonder is not childish, but holy, a posture of humility before a God who is infinitely greater than we can comprehend. So as I step into this day, I choose to carry wonder with me. I will marvel at what is often ignored, cherish what is often dismissed, and give thanks for what is often taken for granted. The return of wonder is not just about seeing beauty. It is about seeing you in the midst of it, and with every glimpse, my heart beats stronger with faith, my spirit lifts higher with hope, and my soul finds joy in knowing that the world is full of your glory. If only I have eyes to see it. Father, as wonder returns to my heart, and I begin to see the beauty of your hand in both the vast and the ordinary, I realize that holding on to pain blinds me from fully receiving this gift. cannot grow in soil hardened by resentment, and joy cannot bloom where bitterness has taken root. That is why I bring before you again the places of hurt that still linger. Not because I have not surrendered before, but because they rise in waves, demanding release each time they surface. Letting go is not a single act, but a continual rhythm, and I need your strength to walk in it. Lord, I confess how tightly I have held on to certain wounds. Some of them have become part of my identity, shaping the way I see myself and others. I sometimes carry them as proof of my struggles, almost as if they define my worth. But you remind me that I am not the sum of my scars. I am not what others did to me or what I did to myself. I am yours, and that truth is far greater than any pain I have endured. Teach me to loosen my grip and place the weight fully into your hands. God, I think of the words spoken that still echo in my memory, words that cut and linger long after the moment passed. I think of betrayals that left cracks in my trust, of disappointments that built walls around my hope, of losses that hollowed spaces within me. These are not small wounds. They are deep, and I cannot simply will them away. Yet I believe that what I cannot heal, you can. What I cannot resolve, you can redeem. I offer you not just the pain itself, but also the power it has held over me. Break that power so that I may walk lighter, freer, unbound. Father, I ask you to teach me the daily discipline of release. When memories return uninvited, let me meet them with prayer instead of bitterness. When anger rises, let me breathe deeply and choose peace instead of retaliation. When sorrow resurfaces, let me lean into your comfort instead of drowning in despair. Letting go is not forgetting, but choosing not to live chained to yesterday. Give me courage for that choice again and again. Lord, I also pray for those who have hurt me. My natural instinct is to wish them away from my story, to hold them at a distance, to demand repayment for the pain they caused. But I know that bitterness harms me far more than it harms them. So I place them in your care, not excusing what they did, but releasing the judgment to you. Let me be free from the burden of carrying both my pain and my desire for justice. You are the righteous judge, and I can trust you to handle what I cannot. God, I bring before you the weight of self-inflicted wounds as well. I have spoken harsh words to myself, carried shame for choices I regret, punished myself with guilt that lingers long after forgiveness has been offered. Teach me to release myself from that prison. If you have already washed me clean, who am I to keep reopening the case? Help me to see myself through the lens of mercy instead of condemnation, to walk with the lightness of one who has been set free. Father, I recognize that holding on to pain not only harms me, but also affects those around me. It leaks into my relationships, shaping how I trust, how I speak, how I respond. By letting go, I do not only free myself, but also create space for love to flow more freely into every connection I have. Let forgiveness and release ripple outward, transforming not just my heart, but also the hearts of those who encounter me. Lord, I ask that you fill the empty spaces left behind when hurt is released. Do not let me live in a void, but replace sorrow with joy, bitterness with peace, and despair with hope. Let healing not just be the absence of pain, but the presence of new life. Plant seeds of love where anger once grew. Build strength where weakness once prevailed. Let every surrendered wound become a place where your glory shines brighter than before. God, I know this journey will continue, that pain has a way of resurfacing even after surrender. But I choose to live with open hands, willing to release again and again. I choose to believe that no wound is too deep for you to heal, no scar too dark for you to redeem, no memory too heavy for you to transform. My freedom is not in forgetting the past, but in entrusting it to you, again and again, until its weight no longer controls me. So here I stand. Father, with all that hurts in me, I release it into your care, believing that as I let go, you will fill me with what I truly need. The past may have shaped me, but it does not define me. Your love defines me, your mercy sustains me, and your presence heals me. And as I step into this day, I carry not the heaviness of pain, but the lightness of hope, trusting that the one who holds me is greater than anything that has ever hurt me. Father, after releasing the hurts that once weighed so heavily on my soul, I am reminded that healing is not always immediate. Letting go may open the door, but peace often enters slowly, like dawn spreading across the horizon, one shade at a time. My heart longs for instant stillness, for the quick resolution of every restless thought. But I am learning that peace grows at its own pace. It is not rushed, not forced, but cultivated gently as I walk with you step by step. Lord, I confess that I often grow impatient with this process. I want peace to flood me all at once, to erase every trace of fear or sorrow in a single moment. Yet I realize that such peace would not teach me trust. True peace is formed in the waiting, in the steady choice to lean on you even when anxiety lingers. Each breath of surrender, each prayer of trust, becomes another stone on the path, guiding me forward toward rest that endures. God, I bring before you the places in my life where unrest still stirs. Worries about tomorrow creep into my thoughts, replaying possibilities I cannot control. Old memories sometimes rise like shadows, tugging me back toward fear. The responsibilities I carry feel heavy, pulling at my shoulders as I step into each day. Yet in all of this, I ask you to walk with me on this slow path. Let every step become a reminder that peace is not found in the absence of struggle, but in your presence within it. Father, I think of how rivers carve valleys over centuries, not by force but by persistence. So too, your spirit shapes peace within me over time, smoothing the rough edges of my heart, deepening my trust, steadying my soul. Help me to embrace this slow work, to celebrate progress even when it feels small, to notice how peace quietly grows even when I am not aware of it. Lord, I ask that you teach me to rest in moments, rather than waiting for perfection. Peace may not come as an unbroken calm, but as glimpses that meet me in the middle of ordinary days. A quiet breath in the midst of chaos, a kind word when I least expect it, a moment of laughter despite the weight I carry. These are all pieces of the greater peace you are building within me. Let me receive them with gratitude, trusting that they are evidence of your hand at work. God, I also pray for patience with myself as I walk this path. Too often I judge my progress harshly, expecting that I should be further along, stronger, more unshaken. But you remind me that healing is not linear, that peace is not earned by perfection. Each stumble, each moment of anxiety, does not erase the journey but becomes part of it. You are not frustrated with my slowness. You are faithful within it. Let me learn to extend to myself the same grace you extend to me. Father, I ask you to protect the seeds of peace from being stolen. The world is loud with fear, quick with distraction, relentless in its demands. Help me to guard the stillness I find in you, to return to it often, to nurture it with prayer and gratitude. Let my choices reflect this protection, choosing words that calm rather than escalate, choosing silence over noise, choosing hope over despair. In these small decisions, peace grows stronger, more rooted, more enduring. Lord, I also pray for those who are desperate for peace yet feel it is out of reach. May they know that peace does not have to arrive in a flood to be real. Even a trickle can begin to soften the ground. Let them not despise the small beginnings, the fragile moments of calm, the brief relief from worry. Remind them, as you remind me, that peace is often a slow unfolding, and that even in the waiting, you are near. God, I realize that the slow path to peace is not wasted time, but holy ground. It is here that I learn perseverance, here that I discover trust, here that I become rooted in ways I could not if peace arrived instantly. The slowness itself becomes a teacher, showing me that lasting rest is not a destination to arrive, but a way of walking with you daily. So I take another step on this path, unhurried yet steady. I breathe in the quiet assurance that though peace may come slowly, it will surely come. I release the demand for immediacy and embrace the rhythm of trust. With each step, I am reminded that you are the one leading me, and that every moment, even the restless ones, are being gathered into the greater story of peace you are writing within me. Father, as I walk slowly on the path toward peace, I realize that true rest is not found only in release or patience, but in allowing myself to be held. I have grown so accustomed to carrying burdens, to solving problems, to standing strong, that I sometimes forget what it means to simply lean. To be held requires trust, vulnerability, and the willingness to stop striving. And yet this is exactly what you invite me into: the safety of your arms, the comfort of your presence, the security of knowing I am not alone. Lord, I confess that it is difficult for me to be still long enough to be held. My mind races, my responsibilities press, my fears whisper that I must always keep moving. But deep within, my soul longs for rest, for the freedom of surrender, for the quiet assurance that comes when I stop clenching my fists and open myself to your embrace. Teach me how to let go not only of what hurts, but also of the constant need to control, so that I may truly rest in you. God, I bring before you the fragile places in me that resist being touched, the wounds I hide, the fears I mask, the weariness I push aside. These are the very places that most need to be held, yet they are the ones I guard most fiercely. I ask you to break down my defenses gently, to meet me in those hidden places with tenderness, to cradle me in the safety of your love until I believe I no longer need to protect myself from you. Father, I think of how a child rests in the arms of a parent, unafraid, unashamed, unconcerned with tomorrow. That kind of trust feels far away at times, yet I know you invite me to it. Remind me that I am your child, not only called to serve, but called to belong, not only asked to obey, but invited to rest. Holding me is not an interruption to your purpose, it is part of it. In your embrace, I am reminded that I am loved not for what I do, but for who I am in you. Lord, I ask that you help me to quiet the voices that tell me I must always be strong. Strength is not the absence of dependence, but the courage to lean where I am weak. Teach me that being held is not failure, but faith, not resignation, but trust. Let me find freedom in the truth that you are my strength, and that I do not have to carry what was never meant to rest on my shoulders. God, I also pray for the times when I cannot feel your embrace. In those moments, surround me with reminders, the comfort of a kind word, the unexpected warmth of laughter, the peace of silence, the steadiness of nature's rhythm. These two are ways you hold me subtle, quiet, yet undeniably present. Open my eyes to notice them, so that even when I cannot sense you directly, I may know I am never abandoned. Father, I lift to you the people who, like me, struggle to be held, those who have been hurt by trust betrayed, those who fear vulnerability, those who carry themselves with strength because they cannot bear to be weak. Wrap them in your love until they learn that safety is not a myth, but a reality in your arms. Teach them that being held is not weakness, but wholeness, not fragility, but the deepest form of security. Lord, I realize that learning to be held will reshape the way I relate to others. When I live from a place of being held by you, I no longer demand from others what only you can give. I am less defensive, more compassionate, more patient, because I am secure in you. Let my relationships reflect this security. Let my love be less about grasping and more about giving, less about fear and more about freedom. God, I ask you to hold not only me, but also my future. I often try to grip tightly to what is ahead, fearing the unknown, planning for every possibility. But you remind me that my tomorrow rests as safely in your arms as my today does. Help me to entrust what I cannot see, to surrender what I cannot control, to lean into the assurance that whatever comes, I will not face it alone, so here I rest. Father, learning again what it means to be held. I do not need to perform, to prove, to pretend. I simply need to lean into the one who has always carried me, who carries me still, and who will never let me go. And in that embrace, I find the peace my heart longs for, the rest my soul craves, and the strength I could never build on my own. Father, as I learn to rest in your arms, I begin to see more clearly how every moment is sustained not by my striving, but by your provision. To be held is to recognize that I cannot nourish myself fully, that I depend upon you not only for shelter, but for sustenance. And so my heart turns to the simple prayer you once taught. Give us this day our daily bread. These words echo through time, steady and certain, reminding me that each sunrise carries its own mercies. Each breath is a gift, each portion enough for today. Lord, I admit that I often crave more than daily bread. I look for guarantees, security beyond the moment, assurance that tomorrow will unfold without fear. But you invite me to trust in the rhythm of today, to believe that what you place in my hands is enough, that what you withhold is not meant to harm me, but to teach me to lean on you. My soul resists this dependence, yet deep inside I know that freedom is found in learning to receive instead of striving to control. God, I remember the stories of the wilderness, when manna fell like morning dew, sufficient for the day but no more. Those who tried to gather more found it spoiled, and those who trusted discovered it renewed with each dawn. In the same way, I am called to wake each morning open-handed, not storing anxieties, not hoarding fears, but trusting that what I need for this day will arrive. Remind me of this truth when my heart trembles, when scarcity feels near, when my plans falter. Teach me to walk with the simplicity of daily trust. Father, your daily bread is more than food for the body, it is sustenance for the spirit. Sometimes it comes in a whisper of peace when my heart is restless. Sometimes in the comfort of Scripture when my mind is scattered. Sometimes in the gentle kindness of another soul when loneliness weighs heavy. You feed me in ways unseen, nourishing the hunger within that bread alone cannot satisfy. Open my eyes to recognize these moments of provision, so I may not miss the miracle hidden in the ordinary. Lord, I confess that I am tempted to believe that what I receive each day is too small, that it cannot be enough to carry me through. But you have shown me again and again that little becomes abundance in your hands. A few loaves can feed thousands. A simple prayer can calm storms. A quiet act of love can ripple into eternity. Help me to release the lie that I must always have more. And let me rest in the truth that what you give is sufficient for the step I take now. God, I also pray for those who do not see even a portion before them, for those who hunger, for those who thirst, for those whose tables are empty and whose spirits grow weary. Provide for them in tangible ways. Move hearts to share. Open doors where they seem locked. Bring light into their darkness. Let me not grow numb to their need, but remind me that I too am called to be bread for others, that your provision often flows through the hands of those who have received. Make me generous with what I have been given, trusting that as I pour out, you will fill again. Father, daily bread also comes in the form of wisdom for each step. I so often look for grand direction, for the full map unfolded before me. Yet you give me just enough light for the path at my feet. Teach me to walk with that light, to trust that the road ahead will reveal itself as I move forward. Help me not to demand answers for years to come, but to find joy in the guidance you give for today. Lord, when I feel anxious about the future, remind me that tomorrow is not mine to control. The flowers do not toil, the birds do not store away, and yet you clothe and feed them. If you care for them, how much more do you care for me? Let this truth quiet my restless mind, anchoring me in the present moment, where your grace is active, abundant, and alive. God, I place before you my longing for enough strength, enough courage, enough clarity, enough love. Teach me that enough does not come from my own reserves, but from the flow of your provision into my life. As rivers never worry if they will run dry, for their source is greater than themselves. Let me live with the same trust, knowing that as long as you are my source, I will never be left barren. Father, today I open my hands. I let go of fear. I release control. I surrender my appetite for what lies beyond this day. Fill me with what I need now, the bread of trust, the water of peace, the presence of your Spirit. And when tomorrow dawns, let me rise again with the same prayer, the same trust, the same open hands. Father, as I lay down the weight of tomorrow and receive the bread you provide for today, I find my heart drawn to the practice of remembering. To remember is to pause and turn my gaze backward, not with regret, but with gratitude. It is to trace the threads of your faithfulness woven through my story, to see how you carried me when I could not carry myself, to recall the countless ways you turned scarcity into sufficiency and silence into song. Lord, memory becomes a kind of altar, a place where I bow in acknowledgement of all you have already done. When fear whispers that I will not endure what lies ahead, remembrance silences its voice. I think of nights when I wept without answers, and yet morning light revealed that I was not forsaken. I think of wounds that seemed too deep to heal, and yet time and grace sealed them with quiet strength. I think of prayers uttered in weakness that found unexpected answers. These recollections are not simply stories of my past. They are anchors for my soul in the present moment. God, I know how easy it is to forget. Life presses forward, and troubles consume my attention, and I convince myself that I am alone again. Yet every time I pause to remember, I am reminded that I stand not on shifting sand, but on a foundation built through years of your steady presence. Just as the psalmist urged his soul not to forget your benefits, I too speak to my own heart. Do not forget the blessings, the rescues, the mercies. Memory becomes medicine, restoring courage when fear tries to take root. Father, I recall the small, almost hidden gifts that would be easy to overlook. The kindness of a stranger, the smile of a child, the unexpected provision that arrived at just the right moment. These are not accidents, but fingerprints of your love scattered across my journey. They remind me that you are closer than I realize, attempt to details too small for anyone else to notice. And when I string them together, I see a pattern of care too intricate to deny. Lord, I also remember the valleys, not to dwell on sorrow, but to witness how you walked with me through them. It was in the valley that your presence became most real, in the shadows that your light shone brightest. The memory of pain does not sting as sharply when it is bound to the memory of your nearness, even when answers did not come, even when the outcome was not what I desired. Still you were there, steady and unshaken. And that memory teaches me that you will be there again. God, remembering does not only reach into the past, it shapes the way I see the present. When I recall your hand guiding me before, I am more willing to trust that you guide me now. When I recall how you opened doors I could not have forced myself, I am more willing to believe that today's obstacles are not final. When I recall the peace that came after storms, can breathe more calmly in the winds that rise today. Remembrance is not nostalgia. It is strength for the present and courage for what is to come. Father, Let my remembering not be passive but active. Help me to create markers in my life, reminders of your goodness. Let me write them down, tell them to others, sing them when my spirit falters. Let me plant these memories like seeds, so that in seasons of drought, they bloom into hope, and let me pass them on so that others, too, may draw courage from the faithfulness you have shown in my life. Lord, when I feel weary, remind me of the countless times you renewed my strength. When I feel unseen, remind me of the moments you whispered directly into my heart. When I feel overwhelmed, remind me of the storms you have calmed within me. When I feel unworthy, remind me of the grace that met me at my lowest and lifted me higher than I deserved. In each of these memories, I see not just what happened, but who was with me, steady and unfailing. God, I want to live as one who remembers daily. Let gratitude shape my mornings, reflection shape my evenings, and memory guide my steps in between. Let me not be quick to complain when struggles come, but let me recall how struggles have been the very places where your hand was revealed. Let me not be quick to despair, but let me remember how despair gave way to hope before. Let me not be quick to fear, but let me remember how fear dissolved in the light of your presence. Father, as I hold the memories of your faithfulness, I ask for courage to carry them into tomorrow. I do not know what storms may rise or what valleys may stretch before me, but I know that I will walk with stories of your goodness in my heart. These stories are not finished, for you are still writing them with each sunrise, still weaving new threads of grace into the fabric of my days. Let me trust that as I remember what has been, I am also preparing to see what will be. Lord, as this long journey of morning prayer draws toward its gentle close, my heart rests in the quiet assurance that you have been present in every word, every breath, and every silence along the way. I have walked through shadows and light, valleys and peaks, questions and answers, and yet through it all, there has been a thread that never broke your presence, holding me, shaping me, guiding me. To come to this moment is not to end the conversation, but to acknowledge that it continues, unbroken, in the rhythm of each new dawn. God, I sense how the prayers that began with trembling and longing have ripened into something deeper, a steady trust, an open heart, a faith that does not rely on sight but on remembrance. I see how wounds have been touched with tenderness, how fears have been quieted with whispers of peace, how hunger has been met with daily bread, and how despair has given way to a horizon bright with promise. This path has not removed the storms, but it has given me shelter in the storm-bearer himself. Father, I know that my voice is but one among countless voices rising each morning across the earth, from the whispers of children to the groans of the weary, from the songs of the hopeful to the laments of broken-hearted. All flow together like streams converging into a river of prayer that finds its home in your heart. To be part of that chorus is humbling, and yet it reminds me that I am never alone, that my prayer is carried with the prayers of others into eternity. Lord, I thank you for the gift of this sacred journey, for the space to pour out my heart without fear, for the courage to admit weakness, for the grace to receive strength, and for the stillness where your voice has spoken softly. This prayer has been both a mirror and a window, a mirror reflecting my own heart back to me, and a window opening into the vastness of who you are. Both leave me changed, more aware of my fragility, but also more certain of your unshakable love. God, as I stand at the threshold of this final prayer, I do not feel an ending but a continuation. For prayer is not confined to words spoken at dawn. It lingers through the day in the way I breathe, the way I love, the way I trust. It lives in the kindness I show, the patience I extend, the forgiveness I offer, and the hope I hold. The conversation never truly ends, because you walk with me in the ordinary moments, turning even silence into communion. Father, let what has been planted here take root in the hearts of all who have journeyed with me. Let these words not remain as ink on a page or sounds in the air, but let them stir courage, awaken faith, and call forth deeper trust. Let them remind each listener that no valley is too dark, no burden too heavy, no fear too great for your presence to meet. Let them be embers that keep the fire of faith alive in the cold nights, and sparks that light new flames when hope seems dim. Lord, I pray especially for those who have walked faithfully to this final step of the path. Thank you for their patience, their openness, their willingness to linger in sacred conversation. Thank you for the quiet strength that has carried them from beginning to end. May they feel your nearness in return for every moment they have offered, and may they know that their journey matters deeply in your sight. God, let the close of this prayer not mark a conclusion, but a threshold. Let it send us forward with hearts attuned to your whispers, with eyes open to your wonders, and with steps steady in your way. Let it remind us that every sunrise carries with it the possibility of new beginnings, fresh mercies, and untold grace. Let it leave us not with a full stop, but with an open horizon where faith meets the unknown with courage. Father, as the light of morning spills gently across the sky, I feel a breeze move through the air, cool and steady, carrying with it the promise of a day yet to unfold. It brushes against my skin like a reminder that life is still flowing, that hope is still alive, that you are still near. And in this tender moment, I realize that the truest prayer is not only in the words spoken, but in the quiet surrender of a heart resting in you. To all who have come this far, thank you for walking this path alongside me, for opening your hearts, for sharing in the sacred rhythm of seeking, trusting, and remembering. Your presence has made this journey richer. Your faith has echoed in these words. Your hope has intertwined with mine. I invite you now to share what has stirred within you, to lift your own prayers, to let your voice join the river that never ceases. And as you do, I ask you to stay with us, to subscribe to this channel, to share this journey with others, and to carry the flame of faith into every morning that follows. For just as dawn breaks anew each day, so too does the invitation to trust, to believe, and to walk in the gentle strength of God. And as this prayer rests, the horizon glows with the first blush of sunrise. A quiet wind moves through the trees, and the sound of living water whispers softly in the distance.